On this episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast, we have Jay Arrington of Greenbriar Studios. Jay is a fellow Greenville, South Carolina producer, engineer, and mixer who primarily works in indie and rock and worship music. We talk about starting in bands and moving into music production. We talk about how he set unrealistic expectations when going in to start his first studio. So if you're working towards going full-time in music in your own home studio, this is going to be a really great listen for you.
Welcome to the Home Studio Hangout podcast, where we explore what it's like building, running, and working out of a home studio with your hosts, Joshua Matotek, Andrew Simmons, and many guests in different areas of the music industry.
Welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. I'm your host, Drew. Not here with my co-host, Josh, today. He's covering for our buddy Lee in a session today. But I am here with my friend Jay Arrington, Greenbriar Studio, here in Greenville with me as well. Jay's been a friend in the area for a minute. We've done some interesting and random projects together. Jay, thanks for coming on the show today and hanging out.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. So it's really funny. I don't think me and you have ever worked on a project like one-to-one together, but I've used your studio a lot.
Yeah, I don't think we have either.
Yeah, I used it there was that one gospel project that came to me, and I was like, I don't know anyone in that area, so I'm just going to call Jay and see what's up. And then, and that ended up being wild and wacky. And then we used it for the worship song me and Shama did. Yep. Which I feel like you still get your spot. It was your old spot, but it still gets recognized as like, it's kind of cemented in the internet's time now. Yes,
it is. I still get messages from random people saying, "Is this your old house?"
That video did a decent amount of numbers, and it's still every now and again too. It's really funny. It'll get reposted by other people that we don't know, and it'll just get clipped and like shared all across the internet, and it pops up every now and again. It's really funny, and so every now and again you get a massive influx of, "Is this your old spot? This looks like your old house."
I did. I wrote this really silly song when I graduated college and put it on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And to this day, it's like around the time that kids are graduating high school or college, it just resurfaces.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I totally get that. And so you're very much specializing in like indie and more alt rock music, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is an interesting. So let's talk about how you maybe got to where you're currently at. How did you kind of fall into studio owner, music production guy, getting into that whole thing? Because you've been in the Greenville area pretty much your whole life, right? Greenville area, right?
Grew up in Spartanburg. I would say in 8th grade, I started trying to write songs. I didn't know that I was actually ripping off other people's. I was basically rewriting Reliant K songs and saying, "Look what I did yesterday." But then I was using a tape recorder, and I was like putting tapes back and forth between stereos to overdub guitar parts. And in 10th grade, I was just dying to be able to record multiple things without it sounding awful. So I got a digital recorder, 16 track, like a CD drive built in, and a microphone. And at that point, I kind of caught a recording bug. I remember opening the microphone and it was just like, it was magical. And then by college, I had a couple of friends who were either in bands or learning about songwriting, and I wanted to record them. So we would set up, and eventually we got to a point where sometimes people would say, "Man, I don't know what to sing in this harmony, or I don't know what this instrument should play, or I don't know how to play this. And I would toss it in there. And it felt so good to be able to help somebody's song get to where they wanted it. And so after college, I was on staff at a church in Spartanburg for about 3 years, where I got really into the studio side of things there, and eventually felt like I was supposed to just go full time and in the studio, in the house where the worship song was recorded.
Yeah.
And that is about it.
Dang. Okay. You did the band thing for a while, right? As well?
Yes. Yeah. So I was in I guess you could say, Christian metal band from 2005 or 6 to 2010.
Oh, wow. That's longer living than most bands in that era, to be honest, though.
Yeah. And it feels like forever ago. I mean, it's over half my life ago at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. And so you went straight from that into like college and like trying to do the studio stuff.
Man,
that was kind of like the time frame.
It was the craziest transition for me as far as guitar playing. And so I went from playing an SG plugged straight into a Marshall half stack to buying a Telecaster and a Fender Pro Junior and getting a bunch of pedals and playing only worship stuff. It was a completely new world for me.
That's a hard pivot.
Major shift.
That's a hard pivot. Yeah. I've spent maybe a couple grand total on my rig, and now I've spent $1,000 on a pedal out of 10 on my rig.
Yes.
That's I think every guitarist goes through that phase, right? Where it's like you start out with nothing, and then you learn about gear and you get like super into it, and then after that you kind of move into like, I feel like where a lot of guitarists end up is either they like stay there and they never leave the pedal world, or they go more like Axe FX Kemper route, or they maybe find somewhere in the middle. Where have you kind of landed with that?
So I wish I had an easy way to show it. My pedal board is down here. It's a Furman SPB 8C from like 2011. They discontinued them. It's got built-in wheels and it's covered with dog fur. It has barely changed since 2011. People come in here, like I have people come in with immaculate pedal boards and the best stuff, and they kind of chuckle at it, but I'm really proud of the sounds I get out of it. I don't think I would be able to get what I get out of it if I weren't a studio guy and having to like dig good sounds out of whatever is present, but it's just really simple. I've changed a couple of things out here and there, but as far as, amp sims and all of that, because I feel like the benefit of Kempers and like I'm hearing about the Strymon Iridium, all of those things. I think they're incredible if you need to get places and set up and tear down really quickly. Yeah. But because
the Neural DSP one as well, I've heard a lot about. I've heard a lot of touring guys move to as well.
For me personally, I've got a couple of amps that I love that just stay in the studio. It is always a little bit easier for me to mix real amps in productions, and so sometimes I'll reamp. During pre-production, I won't want to set all that stuff up, but eventually I'm probably going to run something through an amp if I have time.
Yeah, that makes sense. We can come back because I have more questions about that in a minute, but let's stay while we're staying on the track of how you kind of got to where you are now. How was the transition into like you're interested in studio stuff, you're doing more studio stuff, into like, I'm just going to do this as my job now. Because that's, I think a lot of people, especially people that are working in more home studios, is like, you're even still, you work in a home studio, your studios have been in your house, I think, since I've known you. And except I think are you still at the spot that you and Shane were using for a while, or did you move out of there as well?
So I still have a room at the church that we go to in Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'll be here for the foreseeable future because it's been a great spot.
That's awesome. But yeah, for a long while there, you were in your house as well. And how was the transition from getting to like, I want to do this, to I can do this financially, full-time, stability, all of that kind of stuff? Because especially like, that's the stressful part.
Yes. So basically for over a year, I was working a full-time job at our church at the time, but I was waking up at 4 a.m. because I wanted to record and mix so badly. Like I would get up at 4, record until 7 or 8, and then go to work. And then if I could, I would go back in there after dinner. I remember taking a week of vacation so that I could record somebody's album, because it was going to feel like vacation to me. At that point, it's all I wanted to do. And and it became a spiritual thing for me. I felt led to go that route in my life. Like it was something I was supposed to do. And I can remember that I had let certain things at my church job get to a bad place through lack of communication and avoiding conflict and conversations and things. So in an unhealthy way, I was just dying to get out and do my own thing. So I remember telling my wife, I don't care if I make 10 grand for the entire year. I would rather eat nothing and just be in the studio as my job than keep doing what I'm doing right now. So I didn't really feel like I had an option.
Yeah, I totally get that. What was your job at the church? Because I mean, we've both worked in churches. Was it like music side? Was it production?
Yeah, it was. I was on the music staff, technically music ministry assistant. I was sort of an MD for the band. I set up Ableton sessions. I made tracks. I gave the band guidance on what to play. I did post mixes of the services that went on online and on TV.
Okay.
And all those sorts of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you found like you got to experiment with some stuff with those post mixes?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And like it helped you kind of, because I mean, I try to tell people that want to get into mixing. It's like you can learn. Knowledge is one thing, right? Now, like knowing how a thing works is fine, well and good. You should definitely do that. But it's more about amount of reps than it is about like the knowledge behind the thing. And I feel like however you can get the amount of reps in, like the amount of at bats in, you know what I mean? Like sitting down, mixing a thing, it gets you to where you want to be faster. Because you learn what not to do, you learn what to do, you get to try stuff. And I feel like having a situation like that really helps give you those at bats. So yeah, I mean, you can speak to that. How if you got to try stuff or things like that.
Yeah, it was especially great for things. I think one of the biggest aha moments for me with live service or post mixing is you'd have the same drums, same cymbals, but a different drummer come in. And it's like, hold on a second. The snare sounds completely different when you're playing it. Mm-hmm. What is going on? Or some people come in and just tape the snare drum up like a UPS package, and others leave it open. So I'm hearing the difference there. Hearing how much weird noise can creep in, buzzing, popping, whatever, if you're not paying attention to the source sounds, and how important crowd microphones are for live albums.
That is very true. It's something you don't think about when you record your first live record, because I did a live record, and I mean, I still captured some rooms, but I think well-placed crowd mics as well are like incredibly important for a live record.
A must.
Yeah. I mean, it even goes into like, obviously you have to do a lot of work to them, and they're probably never going to sound good necessarily, but
on their own, they probably
on their own, they never will. Yeah. But they do fit into a space that I think you don't realize until you're starting to reference like other live records, right? It's like, well, why does this sound this way? It has a lot to do with like the space, the room, I mean, drum sound huge on live records for a reason. Yep. So back to the player thing, like you were saying, you know, a drummer would sit down, you'd be like, oh, you sound different. Did you get to like hyper analyze like every little thing as far as like guitars, like how people were playing, what amps you tended to prefer in that style of music, stuff like that?
You know, I noticed things like, same thing with guitarists, you know, we could check a guitar tone at the beginning of the service and it would be great. But then, you know, adrenaline during a service, somebody might just start digging into a guitar so hard that in a way that it can't sound good, or it goes out of tune or something. You're like, oh, okay. So all of that work doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be able to like focus on musicianship and, you know, try to be tasteful in what you're doing, which I understand, like it can do things to you when you're on stage, and
the emotion of the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I'm not saying that shouldn't happen, but it's something you've got to take into account if you're going to try to do a true live album where you're using the live played tracks and things like that.
Yeah. I'm going through a live record right now, actually. And like, I can just tell, I was like, you guys didn't rehearse nearly as much as you needed to.
Yeah.
It's little things like just slight hesitations on like changes, and like slight, like the first time they go to play a lead line, it's like a little more hesitated than, you know, whenever the second time they play it. Sometimes you can copy and paste that stuff around, and you can slide stuff around and it works, but doesn't always. So you go from that to fully running your own spot. And let's kind of bring us up to speed to now. So from like you starting full-time in music to now, like what has been like your goal, your focus, what has been maybe some cool stuff you've been able to work on or had the opportunity to do, or, you know, kind of go through some of that. Give us more of like a then till now.
Yeah. So it has been a roller coaster journey.
And also, it's been how many years?
So my last day on staff at the church was Christmas of 2015. So I like to just say from the beginning of 2016.
Yeah. You're creeping into 10 years, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't they say that 10 years is if you can make it to 10 years?
It's when you start.
Yeah.
It's when you really start. Yeah. That's like your amateur is over at 10 years is what they say. Yeah.
Since 2020, man, I have been so exhausted so many times.
I feel you.
But the first few years, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this in a way that's kind of to the point. I had
I mean,
a
you can
lot
take
of
as long as you
really
want.
okay. I had a lot of really unhealthy goals and expectations.
Which I think a lot of people probably have like an idealistic version of what they want to do whenever they like quote go full time, and kind of managing that. I think one is part of just growing up. You're going to go through that anyway, but also, yeah, it's something that, you know, if you can help people not have to do, would probably be beneficial.
Yeah. So right before I went full time, I started producing tracks for a company called Praise Charts. And so I was basically recreating the music, basically creating karaoke tracks that copy popular worship songs and delivering them to their website. And that was half of my income in my first year. And my first year full time, I made more than my salary at the church. And so, and that was it's fantastic. I didn't do any advertising that I remember. I might have left a poster at the local music store or something like that, but I didn't do any advertising. So, and I didn't really analyze my finances at all. I just, I thought, this is going great. It's all word of mouth. I don't have to do anything, and it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah.
So that set me up for failure later. Let's see. It took me a long time to get over this territorial fear of other producers and studios in the area. With other businesses that I knew of, if it wasn't you, it was a competitor, right? So I thought that's how I was supposed to think of everybody else who had studios or produced music. I wanted to be everything. I wanted to do everything, all genres. You know, I went to college for music composition. So I had this expectation that I should basically understand all music and be able to produce all music and mix all music. Never heard anybody say niche down, like specialize in something. So I found myself neck deep in projects that I was not inspired to do at all, but thought that that's what I was supposed to do, you know? I said yes to so many different things that, well, I don't regret doing them because the experience is extremely valuable. But, you know, I just thought I don't have to advertise. I would see another studio pop up or hear about somebody who was producing music and just be like, get away. Like, this is my territory kind of thing. Yeah. I remember seeing somebody put a new website up for their studio that was like 15 miles from mine. And their website looked a lot like mine, and some, you know, wording in the sections was like mine. And I was really mad. But since then, like, I've talked to this person and hung out with them, and I feel dumb for having that reaction.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had to get over that. Let's see.
Just to talk on that point real quick, I feel like there's something to, like, there is merit to doing everything up front. Now, doing it when you're trying to go full time is not the time to do that. Doing that while you're learning and figuring out, maybe in the earlier years, doing everything is good, because for like people that are younger or newer, like a lot of times you don't know what you don't know as far as like the process of doing things. So you may have never written a song, and you may think you might not like writing a song, but maybe you are a natural songwriter and you do actually. So like trying as many things or different genres or things like that. But yeah, moving into like full-time mode is not necessarily the best time to be like trying everything and
Right.
like inundating yourself with stuff that doesn't like move the needle for you energy wise, I would say. Like I'm listening to a book right now, and it's very much like focus on the things that when you pour energy into it, it feeds energy back into you, like emotionally, or even from like a musical standpoint. It's like, because you are running a business yourself, it is very draining, and there will inevitably be things that you have to do as a business owner that you don't want to do, that is going to drain you. So if you can mitigate as many of those things as possible, and I think that's just, we all go through that phase too, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like you learning about that is just a part of life. And also online studio business and internet studio business and small home studio business was a new thing then. Like it wasn't really a big thing in 2015 to 2017. You know what I mean? Like it was a very new landscape. But anyway, continue.
So let's see. I basically was isolating myself from other people who did the same thing. I didn't feel like I could be friends with other producers in the area. I was cruising along on word of mouth, thinking that I didn't really have to do the business side of things. And I think there are a few exceptions to this, but before I went full time, mainly in college, I would come home from school on the weekends and record the most nonsense songs. I had hundreds. By the end of college, I had hundreds of songs that I recorded in my free time. They were different genres. They were different subjects. Some of them were just like mind-numbingly weird and stupid, but I got so much joy out of listening to them myself. I would get them done and just email them out to all my friends, and they would become inside jokes. Well, when the studio became my business, I just like flipped off the fun switch. It was like, nope, you got to be serious. You got to make these advertising videos that you're wearing a sweater, and you never wear sweaters. People have to know that you're serious and that you're good at what you do. Like, and you can't make time for your own stuff. So I didn't know that, putting a dam in the river of your own natural creativity is so detrimental to your mental health. And it was awful. It did some really rough things. And then eventually, near the end of why can't I remember when this happened? It was, I think it was 2019. By 2019, I thought, okay, I've got to write songs for myself again. So I started a little side project called Staircase Sleeper and released four songs on that over the next couple of years. And it was guitar parts that had been floating around in my head for years. And I thought, man, if I ever do another musical project for myself, I'm going to use this riff. And I eventually used it. And it was I needed it so much, and I just didn't know. But I didn't make time for myself to have any fun, and it was awful.
That's a killer right there.
Yeah. And then 2020 hit. 2020 for most people was just the worst year almost of anybody's life. But I think my gross income in 2020 was like $12,000. I sold over $6,000 of equipment to pay bills. And it really, I had gotten lots of really cool gear that I loved. And the realization hit me very hard that this stuff does not matter at all if nobody is coming to record. It seems really simple, but until you feel that, you don't really know it. So
yeah,
I don't really feel like 2021 was any better. Over those couple of years, 2021, I really buckled down and started trying to learn the business side of things. I was like, okay, I'm going to invest some money into. It was like, I did the six-figure home studio.
the profitable producer one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I told you about that one.
Yeah, you actually offered me. You probably can't put this on the internet. You offered me your login at one point.
Yeah. I was like, it's really good. I'm going through it right now. If you want to check it out, go for it.
So that's another thing. Here's where I was when you told me that. Yeah. So when you offered that to me, I had a pride thing going on where I just thought, no, I don't need that. He needs that. I don't need that. And if I had just done it, man, I don't know how much pain that would have saved me. Because I didn't think I was going to need it.
3 years earlier, right? That would have been like 3 years prior to 2018, 2019. Yeah.
I could have had such a huge head start. And so in 2020, I was very unkind to myself and was just beating myself up with all these like, if you had just done this 3 years ago, if you had just thought about this 3 years ago, then you wouldn't be in this place. And here you are on the recliner, staring at the wall. You get an ad for profitable producer course. You know, you watch the ad for over 5 minutes, and it's like, if you do it now, it'll only be $900. And I remember thinking, I only have $900 left in my business's account. May as well do it. And if this doesn't work, then I'll quit and I'll do something else. That was in 2021. So that was a lot of helpful stuff that gave me a big boost and some strategy. Definitely needed a lot of it. But that was made before coronavirus. So it was like things were still nuts for a while. And big roller coaster of like, things are great, things are awful, things are great, things are awful. A lot of job searching on the internet. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get another job. Here's another thing. I think you've talked about this on the podcast before, but like switching from full-time studio job back to a non-music related job. That was a big thing for me too. I was like, no. Like, if I stop doing this full time, it's over and I have failed. Well, fast forward to 2022, I was driving delivery for Chick-fil-A for like 8 or 9 months because I just had to take some kind of sidestep. I had a really tough conversation with my wife where I realized that at family functions, I was just absent thinking about the studio and how bad things were. And it's like, all right, I've just got to do something else.
It relieves a lot of mental pressure that like their finances can put so much mental pressure on you that like until you've been there, you don't understand. Yeah. Especially, and I think it's something like I try to explain it to my wife all the time. She's like, I work hard and I know you work hard, and I feel like this is like a weird thing, but she's like, I feel like you think you work harder than me. And I was like, no, I don't think I work harder than you. It's that I have so much mental pressure of I have to go get every dollar. You are in a job that provides you with $1. Like I have to go out. If I don't do things, weird esoteric things that you're never going to think of, like I don't make money. And sometimes to relieve that mental pressure, you got to take a sidestep and get a side gig or something like that. Like Josh picked up doing a grocery. He lives in Atlanta. He picked up doing grocery delivery for Instacart. And that is just a thing that helped him not have to take, for him, it was a strategic thing of, he wanted to not have to worry about taking gigs that he didn't want to, working on bad projects, that was stressing him out more than the financial side. So for him, it was, I want to take a sidestep and get a side gig thing so that when on my music stuff, I can work on things that will propel my career in a direction that I want it to go, rather than having to take all of this extra nonsense work and build my brand in nonsense work that I don't want to do.
Yep.
And I think that's growing up in experience. And sometimes you get it right and sometimes you don't, and you need to reset, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which sounds like that's what that was for you.
Yeah. And interestingly, not to say that season wasn't tough for me in some ways, but I rediscovered my love for music during that time because it felt like I was getting paid to drive around town and listen to music. And on days that I'm going to the studio to work on music, I don't really want to listen to music on the way to or on the way back. So all I'm hearing is what I'm working on, which usually is not inspiring. But on Chick-fil-A days, I listened to all kinds of stuff. I would spend 4 hours just letting a playlist of a certain decade shuffle. And I'm assuming you'll know what I'm talking about, but in mainly like high school, I can remember hearing a part of my favorite song. Like it might have been a breakdown in a heavy song or something. But basically hearing that piece of that song would give me a high that would get me ready for the day, you know?
Yeah. No, I totally understand. There's like 3 Devil Wears Prada songs that do that to me still to this day.
It was Devil Wears Prada for me. I still remember passing this gas station on the way to high school, and I'm like, all right. I'm like, everybody in that building's about to get it because I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to...
Yeah.
That sounds creepy, but like... I didn't want to go to school, and that gave me everything I needed to walk into my first class. So I don't feel like I experienced that for years when studio was my job. And then I was listening to Keep It in the Family by Anthrax came on in the Chick-fil-A car. And during the intro, I had never heard this song before somehow, but the intro of that song gave me the musical high, and I just listened to it over and over again. I was like, I haven't done this in so long. I've missed this
Freaked
so
out about
much.
a piece of music.
Yeah. And then that got me into, you know, what do I want to be working on in the studio? Like when I pour into something in the studio, what does make me feel inspired in return? And it's just energetic. I've been trying to nail it down. I'm not saying I only listen to or work on loud stuff. I'm a cellist. I love really soft, heartfelt, intimate things too. But I think it's just like genuine, energetic, maybe, honest, just real and believable. Does that? I hope that makes sense.
Emotionally driven. Emotionally driven.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So
you want it to emote in some way, whether it's like put you in a mood or make you excited, but whatever it's going to do, you want it to like do that thing.
And I found that I love 90s alternative rock stuff. Like I discovered this love for old Incubus and Smashing Pumpkins and oh man, there are so many more, like Local H and all of these things that I missed out on when I was a kid. I didn't know about that music, so I didn't listen to it. Yeah. But there is something about, I love great recording quality and, you know, modern sound, but there is something about listening to sort of a trashy, thin sounding recording, which some of those in the 90s were, but the performance and just the raw tone of it does something that it just does something for me that a super perfect polished mix that came out last year, I listened to it and I'm just kind of like, feels like a photoshopped picture on the front of a magazine. Like I look at it and I'm like, it looks good, but I know it's not real. You know?
Yeah. Like an AI generated painting.
Yeah. Right.
You found this rekindled love for music, and I know if you're like me, whenever this happens, you also start like hyper dissecting like things from music as well. So was that a time where you were like, oh, a whole new world of things that I want to try, and it made you excited about like producing bands again as well?
Yeah, in a way, I think I almost want to say it inspired me to try old things instead.
Yeah.
Like, I started wondering how I could, it's like, how few guitars can I record in this song? How little can I quantize these drums? How little editing can I do and it still sound cohesive?
Yeah.
It was an interesting time for sure. And
yeah.
And then I leaned into I had somebody come in who wanted to do a worship project, and she's a keys player, and when this sounds however it sounds, but a woman comes to me and says, I play piano and I'm a worship leader and I want to record an album. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's going to be soft, like Carrie Job, really sweet, intimate, nothing edgy.
Yeah.
But turns out that she and I were actually on the same wavelength. And one of the first songs we recorded together is this like warbly, modulated, really big alternative rock song. And it was so fun. At that point, I started saying like, all right, I'm just going to start by playing the guitar tones that I love and see if they'll fit in this song. And if it freaks the artist out, then obviously we won't do it. But if they're into it, let's see how weird we can make this thing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's full send it. See, and if they're cool with it, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I know how to do the obvious thing. Let's try to not do the obvious thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that spark coming back is something that I've also recently kind of got going. So since we've been doing the podcast, I started asking people for like music recommendations and things like that, which I'll get from you kind of closer to the end. But I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, I like doing that because it gives me a song at least once a week where I can go, here's something that I would have probably never checked out, or it's something that I don't know. And if it is something that I know, it's like, it helps me revisit a thing that I'm like, oh yeah, this is like really, really good. One for that was like, we had my buddy Seth on Velvet Ear. He's from like the Washington, Olympia area. He does a lot of YouTube indie pop stuff. And he reminded me about the Gautier record, which I don't know if you ever listened to that record. I listened to that record. It's the dude that did as a person who really likes indie music, I feel like you really like that record.
Yeah.
But it's the guy that did Somebody That I Used to Know. It's the record that song is on. It is and he was like, it really is every type of indie music just in one record. And I was like, I haven't listened to that record since it came out, because I listened to it when it came out, when that song was like starting to blow up. And I was like, I like records, entire albums sometimes. And so I checked it out and I was like, yo, this is really good. And I went back and listened to it and I'm like, there are so many things in this that I'm like, I want to put this in a song. I want to put this idea in a song, these vocal layering ideas. I want to
Yeah.
use that in a song or things like that. And that just gets me so excited to like go find a band or a project or a person that's like, I have all of these ideas in this genre. I want to use it on somebody. Let's like, let's do this thing. Let's do this thing. And then you make something really cool together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole mindset shift for me has been really interesting, because then I've started using it on other projects. So you're listening to music and kind of rekindling this thing. Let's continue along the timeline now.
Yes. So, it got to the point, the project that I just talked about, where we did the big alternative sound. When she sent me a quote request through the website, I had actually asked Chick-fil-A if I could go full time. I thought it was over. Like, things dried up in a way that I thought it was final. And I even told her in our consultation call, I basically was like, sure, like, if you really want to record with me, like, I'll give it a shot, but I don't really believe in myself anymore. I'll do a good job for you, but I mean, you're probably... But it turns out she basically said, like, God led me to you, and I want you to do it. I was like, okay. Well, it ended up that project felt like a divine gift for me. And then leading up to Christmas, I got busier and busier and busier. February, I couldn't keep up with the studio stuff anymore, so I stopped Chick-fil-A, went back full time. But I wasn't ready. Mentally, I wasn't ready, because I thought, okay, I had to switch back to Chick-fil-A. I had to switch back to the studio because I couldn't make enough money with my sidestep, and we have to pay bills. So I had just this tremendous weight immediately of like, how am I going to do this? Well, it ended up being a combination of a medication change for me, habit changes with exercising, what I was eating, taking more breaks, taking breaks, if I can, every 45 minutes. If it's not raining, go outside, literally soak up the sun, and figuring out what I could outsource to people. So I was always scared of outsourcing things, like, oh no, I don't, what if they tune the vocals wrong? What if they do the edits wrong? Like, what if they set up the session wrong? I'm kind of a perfectionist, a little bit OCD, all that. Well, I decided to get over that. I had a former intern help me do some editing and session setup. I had a friend here at the church help me out with some accounting things so that I just don't have to think about receipts and all that stuff. And it was great. And then getting back in touch with the fun stuff, I started setting aside time to just make instrumental videos. And then that led to, I had gotten home from vacation with my family a few months ago, and I was getting ready for the day at 6 a.m. I had this huge to-do list, and I thought, I can't do it today. I need to have fun today. And that sounds really irresponsible, but I'm going to let myself do that. Showed up to the studio and recorded this little fun, easy listening gripe song about being back from vacation and not being ready to work. Yeah. And even if I had not put it on Instagram, I felt so good. I can't tell you how good I felt finishing that song, listening to it. I still love listening to it, but I put the video up and suddenly everybody's sharing it and liking it, and it's getting more attention than many other things that I had put on social media in months. Yeah. And I thought, hold on a second. You mean to tell me I can have fun and be silly and people like it, and that get what I've wanted to do this whole time brings the attention to my business that I've been trying to get by being serious.
Yeah.
At that point I started leaning into more like, all right, I'm going to have as much fun as I can. I'm going to be an idiot. And if somebody doesn't like it, they're not my ideal client anyway. So, but the beach song led into a few more. They're just like 90-second or less Instagripe songs that are varying genres. And I'm planning to release an album of these songs, maybe by the end of the year. I don't know. But I'm having
one of my favorite ones was the guide ringing your front door.
Yes, no soliciting.
No soliciting.
Yep.
That's great.
Thank
shout
you.
out to
Justin Nix.
to Justin Nix on that one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The homie coming through with the punk beats, man. That junk sounds awesome.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so it's allowing me to explore all of my old favorite genres. So like in 6th grade, I was zooming up and down my driveway on a skateboard with pop punk blaring in the back, or skate punk, and like anything that you would see here on Tony Hawk when you were playing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let me do a punk song, let me do a metal song, let me do this smooth, like easy listening one. I have a ska one now. There's an old country one, and there's going to be like a 50s rock, and a big band one.
That's sick.
I have that was another fun thing. I did composition in college. I did music theory. There are certain things that are outside my reach, though, like really jazzy or like neo soul chords. Like I don't have those under my fingers at a keyboard, but I wish I did. But I sat down. I have a Glenn Miller greatest hits album that has been in rotation in my car for years, and I hear all these really close like chord melodies in the horns, and I'm like, I don't know how to write that. But I sat down with this big band song, this joke big band song, and I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to do these chords. And I did it. And again, was like, I just did something new. Like I didn't think I could do this, and I did it today, and now I feel so good. And then I had all these volunteer horn players on Instagram send me videos of them playing the horn parts for free. And I pulled it into Pro Tools the other day, and I started laughing out loud at how good it sounded. And I can't wait to finish. It's going to be if nobody else listens to it, I will drive around and listen to it by myself, as conceited as that may sound.
No. Yeah, I totally get it.
It's just, it's so much fun. And I wish I'd given myself the space to do stuff like this a little more in the past few years.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, dude, thanks so much for coming on and talking about stuff. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's always good to have the local homies on. I don't get to have enough of them on because everybody's so busy. So try to make time for everybody. But yeah, Jay, thanks so much for coming on. Listener, thank you so much for listening. Yeah, hope you enjoy. Go check out Jay, give him a follow. Check out Greenbriar, give them a follow. And we will see you guys next week.